Alright, what is good guys? It's JFZ and welcome back to Let's Talk. For today's discussion, we're going to take a look at one of Geometry Dash's most monumental levels of all time, Bloodbath, by Weo Vermilion, Michigan, Evasion, Crack, A Sonic Man, Etzer, Havoc, Euron David, G-Boy, and Riot. Today's going to be a bit different though, since this is such an old level, so I'm going to do my best to judge it based on 1.9 standards rather than 2.1 standards. I'm also going to talk a lot about the impact of this level, just warning you ahead of time. So today I'm talking about this level. I'm not too sure if you heard of it. It came out like a really long time ago and it's kind of outdated. It's just this one level. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called Bloodbath. Yeah, I'm really not too sure if you actually ever heard. All jokes aside, this level has such a crazy history. For those of you who didn't know, Bloodbath, after over 5 years, has finally been taken off the demon list, which is unbelievable to say the least. When it first came out, it was undeniably the hardest demon in the game and remained unbeaten by anyone besides Riot for a year. At the time, nobody knew if there could even possibly be a level harder than Bloodbath, but today there are 150 demons harder than it. That's just insane. And it's now a requirement for your level to be harder than Bloodbath just to make the demon list. And to think that was 5 years ago, wow. Well, that's enough about its history. Let's get into the actual Let's Talk. And just as I said before, I'm going to do my best to rate it based on back then standards. At the time, it was obviously the hardest demon in the game and extremely hard to judge gameplay. I've also tried to do my best to see what other people have said, but not much on the gameplay has been said, so here's the question. How exactly do I rate it? Well, here's what I do know. I'm never beating this level. It may not be on the list anymore, but it's still a beast of a level. It's got a lot of straight fly, which I suck at, and a lot of really precise timings, which I also suck at. I have to admit, back when it first came out, it took me about 1,000 attempts to beat it in practice mode, but today, it only takes 500, so I'm definitely getting better at the game. 1.9 was just a different time. Like, if you could straight fly, you were considered a god, and you could expect praise from the entire community. Anyway, in terms of sync, it's alright in some cases and just okay in others. But even still, I can't negate it too much because how many people have you heard say, this sucked after beating it? I mean, I don't know. I guess I'll just give it a 9 out of 10 since it's Bloodbath, but this was a hard one. So just like I did in my Cybernetic Crescent video, I'm going to break Bloodbath up and grade each part to give an overall score. So here we go. Starting the level off, we got Weo, and is there really a more iconic opening to a level than this? From pitch black, with red slowly appearing to reveal a horrifying tight ship, which sends you straight into action as you enter a flashy straight fly. The decoration is great here for a 1.9 level since the editor was so limiting back then. Not to mention the mini ball part looks great too. I really like the flash and displaying energy of this song and it looks visually great. He even added a good amount of air decoration and background, which are two things the community constantly expects in modern day levels today, so this gets a 10 out of 10 right off the bat. Directly after, we got Vermilion, and although it's not as flashy and detailed as the part before it, it's still got a bit of charm to it. The ship part is okay since it uses generic brick decoration and red glow, which was a common thing back then. But the ground is pretty empty. I know layering was practically impossible back then, but there were ways you could go about doing it, and honestly, that's alright. The ball part after is a bit better, as it's a bit more flashy, the design is better, and the ground can't be seen so the spikes are decorated the same way they were before. I think he did the best he could, and it's still pretty appealing in general, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Up next is the Triple Spike Master Michigan, and of course there's tons of them in this part. I mean, obviously it's Michigan, what do you expect? This part fits the music especially well since it's toned down and more chill than the parts before it, and I like the usage of gray to show that. I also like the little torches he added and the way he made his name glitch at the end. This is a very early instance of glitching and it was definitely cool to see back then. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. Next up is Evasion, and it also uses a lot of gray to create a type of castle thing going on, and it looks really cool. There's little bits of dark red that really stand out and make the part feel more evil, I guess. There's background, there's good ground, there's not much else to say, so I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Moving on is probably my second favorite part in the level, Crack. The design isn't anything special today, but back then it was pretty damn good. There's background, there's decorated saws, and the clubstep monsters are really cool. One thing this level does kind of suffer from is the fact that all the parts share an identical ground design, but as I said before, 1.9 was kind of limiting with these kind of things. And the only thing I'm not too sure about is why the part changes in like the last 3 seconds of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not terrible, but it's just kind of weird to me. It still looks kind of good though, and my only assumption is that it serves as a transition into the next part, but either way, it's still going to get a 10 out of 10 from me. Next up, we got a Sonic Man, which is a name I don't hear much anymore. Did he quit? I'm not really sure, actually. But anyway, his part is also pretty good and does a similar thing where it changes halfway. It's not a massive difference since only the design changes a bit, but it's a good part overall. There's a good amount of air decoration and the design is good. The only thing I'm not too big of a fan of is the overuse of red in the first half, and yes, I know this is a red hell themed level, but still, sometimes too much red is too much red. 8 out of 10. Next up is my boy Etzer. I honestly really miss Etzer in the community. I was such a huge fan of his skits and he was just a great content creator in general. And on top of that, he was like at the top of the hierarchy system and was actually likable. He stood up to Viperin, I mean jokingly, but still, and was easily my favorite higher up at the time. Now he's gone. And we're left with Viperin. Etzer, please come back. These are some dark times, I don't think I can make it. Etzer has a great part. It was cool to see that his name was actually a part of the gameplay, which, yes, is also something Giron and G-Boy did too, but Etzer's actually required more gameplay from it, if that makes any sense. Like, you know, it had an actual purpose to it. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of the empty ground, but that wasn't a big thing back then anyway. And let's be honest, the opening to that part was a banger. The only problem I have is that it seems to get progressively lazy as it goes on, but I'm still giving Etzer a 9 out of 10, because it's Etzer, come on. Now is Havoc, and this is kind of weird because the first half is basically the Vermilion ball, then changes design, then changes design again. All in all, these 3 separate designs aren't bad, and I don't have too much to say about it since it's generic brick decoration again. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10, only because it's actually probably my least favorite part in the level. Next is Giron David, who picks it right where Havoc left off. It continues really well, but it looks alright since it's also generic bricks, but that part where he displays his name is pretty solid. I can't critique it too much, so I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Next up is definitely my favorite part in the level, G-Boy. This part has really good detailing, and the font that he uses to spell your blood is just crazy. Like, I've never seen anything in the game at the time. There's not much air decoration, but the background and design is pretty clean and definitely makes up for it. It even somehow manages to look bloody, which, if you haven't noticed, is perfect for a level named Bloodbath. Definitely a 10 out of 10. Finally is Riot's part.
Oh my god!
Good times. 10 out of 10. In the end, this level gets an 8.9 for decoration and 1.9 standards, but I'll be super nice and round it up to a 9 since it basically is a 9. Last thing as usual that we're going to discuss is atmosphere. So first and foremost, Bloodbath uses the infamous song At the Speed of Light by DimRain47. The song notorious for being in almost every hell-themed red level extreme demon. Have you ever seen that extreme demon starter pack meme? Yeah, that's the atmosphere. If it was today's standards, I'd probably give it a 2 out of 10 for being so generic, but honestly, I don't really think I can do that here. Levels like Cataclysm and Bloodbath set the standard for these type of extreme demons, and can you really blame them? Their popularity and impact is insane. This game definitely wouldn't be the same without these levels, and since we're talking about Bloodbath, it would probably be a sin if I give it anything lower than a 10 out of 10. I could really go on forever talking about this level, but I think you guys get the point. This level is monumental and changed the game in ways we didn't even think were possible. It pushed Demon Slayers to their absolute limits and set the standards for future extreme demons. And now, after more than 5 years of being one of the 150 hardest demons in the game, it's not anymore. It's pretty disappointing considering a good portion of them only exist to try to be top 10 or top 1. But also shows how far we've come. Bloodbath will always be a huge part of this game's history and really begs the question, how hard can demons really get? I guess we'll have to find out. According to math, Bloodbath gets a... out of 10. Thanks for watching. As always, be sure to throw your opinions down below. Also, let me know if there's any other levels you want me to review so I can take them into consideration. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.